haven't done stuff that they say that they were supposed to do, or they haven't followed the rules exactly, and unfortunately sometimes that's what we have to do as well. I've been at the institution now for going on 8 years, and I worked with the chapter prior to and during its dark time and them being removed from campus, and for me it was very heartbreaking. You know, I'd gotten very close with a lot of the students in the chapter. They were cranking out student leaders left and right, and then something happened. And you know, looking back, the bad aspects were there. The foundation was there, and just in the right circumstances, that came up and rose up and really took over the culture of the chapter. And as Steve said, you know, we worked very hard to try to get rid of that. And the entitlement of the chapter, the attitude of the culture of the chapter was so strong. I mean, they literally said, "We will not let this be successful." Those that were causing issues for the fraternity said, "No matter what you do, we will not let this be successful." So, as Steve said, the decision was made, and toughly, the decision was made to go ahead and close the chapter, and it was tough. So I'm very excited that the chapter is going to come back. I have a lot of respect for Sigma Phi Epsilon I. Not a member of Sigma Phi Epsilon, I'm a member of the fraternity, but not Sigma Phi Epsilon. So I have a great deal of respect for Sigma Phi Epsilon at the University of Florida, but also as an organization across the country and beyond. So I'm very excited about them coming back. Steve and Patrick wanted me to come and just talk a little about fraternal relevance today, and how our fraternities and sororities relevant today. And that's fraternal relevance is a buzzword these days. It's a hot topic that a lot of folks in my position and in Patrick's position are talking about. How are fraternities still relevant today? So much has changed over the last 50 years, as they always do. How are fraternities still relevant? You know, I get the comment a lot, and I get asked the question a lot of fraternities and sororities aren't going to be around in 20 years. You look at everything that's happening in the world, in the media, it's just a concept it's not going to be around in 20 years. And I genuinely don't believe that, which is probably good since this is my career choice, but I genuinely don't believe that. Fraternities, the first fraternity was founded in 1776, the same year that this country was founded. The concept is not going away. Fraternities and sororities have evolved over time. They look different than they used to look, but they also look the same in a lot of respects. They always have, and that camaraderie, that almost intangible quality, has always been there. So the concept's not going anywhere. The universities across the country could say, we're getting rid of all fraternities and sororities, but they're not going to go anywhere. There have been institutions that across the country that have done that, and those fraternities and sororities don't go anywhere. They turn into something different, they go somewhere else, but they don't go away. So a good thing is the university has embraced that. So universities have created positions like mine that support the fraternities and sororities and that help those organizations be successful. Our fraternities and sororities, undoubtedly, they're high functioning, high risk, high producing organizations, and so to have an office that's supported to their success is important. So absolutely, fraternities are still relevant. And I've got some stuff here that I want to show you all that talks a little bit about just some of the numbers, and I'm sorry that you can't see it very well, and maybe Steve can share the PowerPoint later just so you can get a better sense. But we focus a lot on what we call 4 pillars of the Greek community today, and you see these 4 pillars in common in all fraternities and sororities: the scholarship, the leadership, service to the community, and then this community aspect, the brotherhood, the sisterhood, this community development within the organization beyond. So we focus a lot on those four areas, and how do our fraternities and sororities excel in that. So this is just this comes from our annual report, from our Sorority and Fraternity Affairs annual report from last year. This is just a great report. The bottom line is that you can't see the numbers, but the overall Greek average GPA is higher than the university average GPA, and it has been that way for quite some time. In spring of 2015, the all-Greek GPA is 3.37 as compared to the 3.33. It's mind-blowing. I mean, it's not much bigger, but it's bigger. You better believe that we created a chart that shows like a huge difference in like you know, what the GPA is, but our students are smart, and they're smarter than they ever used to be, and that's frightening for somebody like me who wouldn't also be able to get into the University of Florida. But the grades are pretty outstanding. Our women are much smarter than our men. That's always been the case. And our sororities are outperforming academically, but our fraternities and sororities are definitely performing very well academically. You look at how much they're contributing service and philanthropy-wise. Just within this last year, a total of almost $500,000 that was raised. Almost 60,000 community service hours for the year. This is just what's being reported. Our students don't do a good job of reporting that to us. So this number is underreported, but that's just what we have that's reported. So this $500,000, this $477,000 is in addition to, they have the event called Dance Marathon on campus. Some of you may be familiar with that. It's a big event that they have that raises money for the Children's Miracle Network. The Greek community alone raised like $1.2 million just for that event. That's in addition to this $500,000. So their contribution and their presence on campus is obviously incredibly relevant to the University of Florida and the community beyond. Just some of the leadership programs that we do. So this is leadership programs that we help to host and host in conjunction with the fraternities and sororities, working with them quite a bit. You know, we have a president's retreat that we do in January. We have a leadership class now that's 4-credit class, just 4 fraternity and sorority presidents are able to take. And we do an entire semester of just leadership training. We have like an emerging leaders conference, a lot of different things that we do in order to help with their leadership programs. Percentages of Greek students that are involved in some of the big activities, some of the big leadership roles on campus, also to show its relevance. So you've got the Right Scholar Program, which has been around for quite some time. The preview staff, this is the orientation staff, so 29% of those members are Greek. 36% of the Right Scholars are in a fraternity or sorority. 52% of the Hall of Fame inductees, just for that last year, were members of fraternities and sororities. Mike?
What percent of Greek per campus?
How many students are Greek?
Yeah.
And I'll show you that number in just a second, but we are up to 21% of our undergraduate population among the fraternities and
21% of the population is creating 36 and 29.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Cicerones, which is the ones that do tours on campus and things like that, they get the special seats at the football game. So 37% of those folks are Greek. But Mike brought up a good question. So this, again, lots of numbers that you can't see. Have it up here just in case you wanted to know this. This is a snapshot of our Greek community as of yesterday. I went in there to our database to see how many Greek students we have. We currently have 7,258 students that belong to fraternities and sororities. That's a lot. I mean, that's a small university. And somebody who's sort of responsible for managing all that, it's a lot. So that's about 21%, like I said, of our undergraduate population that belongs to fraternities and sororities. So 1 in 5. It's incredibly relevant. So we have 4 governing councils now. We have the IFC and all the different fraternities that are currently in our IFC. We have a multicultural Greek council. These are our culturally based fraternities and sororities. We've seen a huge emergence of these fraternities and sororities just within the last 30 years. Our NPAC, which is the National Panhellenic Council, these are our historically African American fraternities and sororities. And then the Panhellenic Council, which is the traditional sorority council. So within IFC right now, we have 2,879 men. Within Panhellenic, we have 4,096. So less sororities, but more women in those sororities. Our average chapter size right now for the fraternities is probably 120, somewhere around there. The average chapter size just for our Panhellenic sororities is 230, maybe. Yeah, they're a lot. And the guys are like, we need more sororities. No, we don't. We just need to be better at hanging out with them. So we currently have 62 fraternities and sororities total, which is also a lot. 62, and then, like I said, the 7,200. And about 1,500 of those live in one of the 39 fraternity and sorority houses. So there's a lot. I mean, when you compare us to the rest of the universities in the country, we have a large Greek community, and it is growing. It's growing substantially, and I'll show you sort of these numbers. This is just a quick graphic that we created in my office to show the impact of what we're doing and the impact on our staff, and some of the things that we do with the fraternities and sororities. So we sort of compared numbers. So we have, this was 2014. We were comparing that to 2006. We've got some records that go back that far, at least. This graph shows the size of the fraternity and sorority community. So this number represents the number of students that belong to fraternities and sororities. This is 2006. This is 2014. You can see since 2009 we have been growing as a Greek community tremendously. And this is a trend across the country. We're growing. The students are still wanting to be part of fraternities and sororities. And that's a 37% growth since 2006. In 2009, it went down a little bit. That was when the economy started to tank somewhat. We had a big storm that came through during sorority recruitment, and a lot of women said, no thanks, I don't want to go through sorority recruitment in the middle of a hurricane. I don't blame them. So our numbers went down a little bit. We've grown since then, and then the numbers continue to increase. So the students are still interested, when they come to the University of Florida, are still very interested in joining fraternity or sorority. Just some of the stuff like this, you know, the number of contacts we have with the students. We spend a lot of time mentoring, working with the students. The number that I thought was interesting, so one of the things that we do is help, obviously, with risk management. We also help with crisis management. So anytime something happens with a student in the chapter, anything something happens with the chapter, you know, we get in trouble for something, or something's happening with one of the individual members. You know, I'm a slave to the cell phone. They know they can call me anytime, day or night, and they're supposed to. So if something happens, they're all in New Orleans this weekend watching the game. They're watching it in New Orleans, they're really watching the game. But if anything happens, you can call me. So last year we spent 409 hours working with just some sort of incident case or conduct case, which when you think about it, it's about 10 weeks of the work that we do throughout a year is just devoted to those types of situations. That's a lot. And this was more of an argument of we need more staff in our office to do more for the fraternities and sororities. But so that's what that number represents. Our job is to be there to support the students. You know, there's a lot of different attitudes across different generations as far as what the university should and shouldn't be doing when it comes to fraternities and sororities. And the students always talk about self-governance. Sometimes they just want to be left alone, don't want the university. That relationship's always been there. But my job really is to make them better. And our job is to help the fraternities and sororities do what they say they're going to do. We're values-based organizations. We're supposed to do good things, and that's what we help them to do. You know, as far as the relevance, there's a lot of things that make them relevant. You know, Steve brought up a good point about social media and how social media is changing everything. The students are still getting the same benefit from joining fraternities that you all did, that we did. And it's that one-on-one interaction, it's that face-to-face interaction, it's how to work with other people, and these soft skills, right, that the companies are looking for. The companies are still hiring people that come from fraternities and sororities and can show on the resume that they've had these experiences because they know that they haven't just done very well in the classroom, that they've had opportunities to work on a team, to work toward a common goal, to deal with those idiots that sometimes derail the goal that you're trying to achieve, and those are all very difficult things. One thing that I've noticed about this generation, and social media is a big part of that. I'm glad that I was the generation just before social media got big in college. I'm very thankful. I'm glad that I didn't have a camera on my cell phone. I'm glad there were no cameras on cell phones. You know, they have a big issue with that these days, and it's tough. I mean, I empathize with them, but also want to smack them around sometimes for why were you recording that? Why were you doing that in the first place? But then why were you recording it? One of the things that I've noticed about this generation, one of the things that fraternities and sororities still develop for students is this moral development. And it's tough, I think, for our students because our students are having difficult times